He won't be ready. All right, hit record. Dang it.
Hold on.
I got an error.
Shut up.
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, a weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 20 of 2022. I'm Chris Louie, and back from my first cross-country trip since 2020. Happy episode 66. I can't prove it, but I bet we are now within the top 1/10 of 1% of podcasts on Apple in terms of number of episodes. With me, I have my co-host Uncle Barbecue, who is celebrating 5 years here at Zscaler. Congrats, and may I say it's been an honor working with you, despite your questionable hairstyles.
So you know what the saying is, right? Time flies when you're on the longest 2-week lockdown in history. Is anyone wondering what I'm going to do to celebrate my 5 years here at Zscaler?
Always.
I'm going to buy a bidet, baby.
You're going the bidet route.
Yes, sir.
Are you doing this just to save toilet paper, or do you just like the feeling of something on the good old rectum there?
Well, it's complicated, right? So one time I used it, and I don't want to get too into the details, but I started to salivate, and I looked into this, and apparently, there's a sympathetic nerve that is kind of tied to different parts of your body, your rectum being one of them. So long story short, I made I rang my own dinner bell while taking a dump.
So wait, Brian, salivate, because you're not supposed to use that thing as a water fountain. It's supposed to be on the other end.
No. It just weird things have happened.
All right, Brian. Well, there was no need to get graphic on the Zoom here. You know what I do want to see, though, is Deech with some hair. He sent a picture to our group chat a while ago when he met Joe Rogan about 10 years ago, and he still didn't have hair back then. So I want to see Deech with a full lock of head of hair.
It will be high school. Right after high school, I started shaving it. So I'll find it in the yearbook.
Maybe it's in that pink camera on one of those little
there you go.
cards.
Nope.
And we have Glenn Medina, always the jet setter. Thank you for always making time for the show, no matter where you are and where you're broadcasting from this week.
Everyone, thanks. Happy to be back. I am in Southern California, sunny Southern California, and Huntington Beach to be exact. We're here to celebrate my daughter's master's degree graduation. Not graduation. It's her pinning ceremony tonight. So one of many events that are happening over the next 2 to 3 weeks here.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, congratulations.
Must be a proud papa moment. Yeah.
Oh yeah. She's turning 25. Oh no, she turned 25. I turned 50, so she's half my age, and it's good. It's a litmus test of what my wife and I have done for her for the last 25 years in preparation for adulthood. So we feel very proud of her.
Great.
She's not going to be a degenerate like you.
Well, no guest this week. Our scheduled guest had to drop out at last minute due for unforeseen circumstances, but we do have some great guests lined up for the next few weeks, so we'll be sure to reschedule today's guest too. Combined, we have decades of information security experience and are here not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 4 awesome stories for you this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. For our opening topic, in commemorating Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, which was originally only a week until 1990 when it was extended to run the entire month of May, I wanted to share a story with you that I heard last week from someone I know. It really blew my mind, and I thought it was too good not to share on the pod. And just so you know, it's not InfoSec related in any way. It's got some setup, so please stick with me. I guarantee it's worth a listen. I had dinner with a group of friends last week, and someone from the group told us a story about how his family immigrated here to America. His family was originally from China, and they fled China during the Chinese Revolution. They went to Vietnam, which is where a lot of the Chinese refugees went. And the dream was to come to America, but before doing so, they had to go to a staging area in Thailand, where there they were held and vetted before allowed to travel over the ocean. I'm going to change a few of the names and the details to keep it anonymous, but it won't affect the story in any way. Well, when my friend's family made it to Thailand, he was around 4 at the time, and they were housed in basically a warlord's camp. I don't know if it was the U.S. contracting with the locals in Thailand to stage immigrants or how that happened, but they ended up in this camp, and the conditions were, let's say, not so great. Food was scarce, and the physical beatings were handed out regularly to the adult males in this camp. My friend's uncle was regularly subjected to these beatings, and there was one guard in particular who picked on him and made his life really difficult, and he eventually earned the nickname Joe the Tiger. Joe would beat his uncle within inches of his life, often breaking bones, and was just an absolute savage. Well, thankfully, his family got to leave Thailand, and he came by boat to the U.S. where they did not have to worry about that ever again. And to this day, my friend's uncle, he will never go back to Thailand. He doesn't even eat Thai food because he just has horrible memories of anything Thai related. Fast forward about 30 years, my friend and his family, minus the uncle, since he wouldn't go, they went back to Thailand for a leisure trip, and they hired a local tour guide there. And the tour guide, funny enough, they asked them, were you housed at a certain camp at a certain date? And indeed, it was the camp that they were at. And then the tour guide asked them, did you happen to know a guard there named Joe the Tiger? And they said yes. And the tour guide told them he's actually the nephew of that guard, Joe the Tiger, and he knew that his nephew was a tour guide who regularly interacted with American tourists. So apparently what happened was, after Joe the Tiger, he left the camp, he actually converted. He became a Buddhist monk and was seeking to make amends with his past. And he asked his nephew to basically ask every tourist that he encountered, ask them if they were American, if they were at the camp, so that he could actually tell them how truly sorry he was for what happened. Now, they say to forgive and forget, but, I don't know if I could forgive someone who did that.
I 100% thought you were going to say that the guy, Joe the Tiger, was actually Joe Exotic from Tiger King. Did anybody else think that? How the story going to end?
That would have been a twist.
Just like Deej like fashion. Let's take this somewhere else.
No, all right. Well, I'm sorry.
I mean, that was crazy. Like, what a coincidence that was.
Yeah, I'll be the first to tell you. I mean, my family immigrated here from the Philippines, and I always hear these things about how the police are unjust here in the United States. And I'll be first to tell you, we have it good. We have it well over here. Corruption, while there are some here in the United States, it's not as bad as what you think there are in other countries. And the Philippines is specifically one of those countries. And I've lived in many countries, and I've visited many countries. So, yeah, I could see where some of this could be taken and construed the wrong way, but it is, it is good to hear that people turn around and become Buddhist monks and try to do reparations for what they've done. But yeah, that's really harsh on someone.
Yeah, I go back and I can't even begin to even think of a tough story growing up that would be anywhere on that level. Man, I had it pretty damn good, I think.
You had flushing toilets, you had running water, so yeah, it can't be that bad. But what's odd was that his uncle would not even eat Thai food, and he's from Thailand, right? Is that?
Yeah, so his uncle is with them. So originally from China, then they went to Vietnam.
Originally, okay.
Yeah, they were held in Thailand before they were allowed to come here to the U.S. But anything Thai related, because I guess they Thai food at the camp, and any kind of memory associated with Thailand just was not for him.
Wow. Does he throw away stuff that's made in Taiwan?
I don't know if it goes that far, but yeah, he'll never
get rid of these alarm clocks. Damn it!
I will not wear this shirt.
I'm trying to think. Do I have anything made in Taiwan within an arm's reach here? No, my Glock isn't.
So, well, Taiwan is a totally separate country than Thailand. So
I'm sorry, good. Thailand. Yeah, thank you. The cup that Glenn's just laughing at me. The cup that Glenn got me is made in China.
Sorry.
As are most things nowadays.
Is anything made in Thailand?
Textiles, I would
food?
think. Yeah, so I think shirts and clothing. I think are made there.
Was it Nike that had a plant out there? Some shoe manufacturer had a couple of plants out there as well. I guess maybe as the economy got better and industrialized, and they didn't have to depend on that type of labor market. And now it's very much industrial and past industrialization, right? Like some of the other countries are.
Yeah, I can't find anything. Vietnam is as close as I'm getting outside of China in my office. Everything else is made in the USA, including my shirt.
Including your shirt, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not.
No, it really is.
All right. Well, for our first story, I made a joke actually at the beginning of the pandemic that anyone who doesn't think alcohol stores are not an essential service is crazy, because there's some post on Nextdoor that says, why are these liquor stores allowed to stay open? Why are they considered essential? And I just made some off the cuff joke about that. Well, people assisting Ukraine in the current Russia-Ukraine conflict tend to agree that this is an essential service. A new report shows that actors working on the side of Ukraine are launching disruptive DDoS attacks against a portal deemed essential for the distribution of alcohol inside of Russia. Several vodka and alcohol distributors inside of Russia are reporting that they are unable to access the EGAIS portal as required by the government regulations. As a result, alcohol shipments in Russia have effectively ground to a halt, creating a shortage at retail stores. Alcohol distillers are now cutting back on production since their inventory is too full. They've got these boxes piling up, they can't ship them out, setting up for a future supply chain problem. The EGAIS portal is listed as one of the targets on the Ukraine IT Army's Telegram channel of targets to hit, so it's reasonable to assume that they are behind the attack. This is yet another example of the world coming together to punish Russia for their invasion of Ukraine without actually attacking any critical infrastructure. So, was I the only one that was using alcohol as hand sanitizer when this whole pandemic came? That was my reason why I smelled like a drunk inside of a car. So you got handles of vodka for sanitizing reasons.
That's right.
Not me. I did not. I just rubbed some dirt on it and hope for the best. No big deal. I'm stoked that Ukraine's not, it's cool that they're fighting on the streets, but it's also great that they're taking this cyber, right? We always talk about the next wave of war is going to be based on some type of, cyber attacks and whatnot. So I'm glad to see that they're getting their ducks in a row. But it does make me wonder, how much of that $40 billion we're trying to send over there is going towards this DDoS infrastructure?
As far as I know, the $40 billion is for kinetic lethal aid. I think it's a ton of those Javelin missiles. Have you guys ever seen a Javelin missile in action?
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm guessing cool. Glenn did.
I was just in Ukraine the other day, but yeah. Enlighten the listeners, Chris.
It's basically a missile. So we had tremendous success with it. I want to say it was in Iraq in 2003. I don't think they were around when Glenn may or may not have been in that region of the world. But essentially what it is, it's a fire and forget missile. So when you think of an RPG, a rocket propelled grenade, you got to point it at your target, you hit a button and it flies in a straight line. It's ballistic. A javelin it's a heat seeking, so tanks give off a lot of heat. It's heat seeking. It can be fired from up to 2 miles away. It shoots the rocket maybe 10 feet in front of you. It just pops out of the launcher and it flies straight up into the air and it comes straight down on top of your target, because tanks are extremely vulnerable on the top. So tanks have very thick armor on the side. They have explosive armor on the side. So if an RPG comes in, a piece of the armor can blow up the rocket before it hits the tank. But they're extremely vulnerable from the top. And these things cost $200,000 a piece. But they are highly, highly effective at taking out things like tanks.
Have you ever heard of there's this one weapon that I think we had on the Humvees. And Glenn, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. But they would basically shoot... for lack of better words, an armor piercing round that had a uranium rod in it, and it would go through the vehicle, the tank, so quick that literally the insides of you would just be vacuumed out, and anybody inside of that vehicle would be dead. You guys know about that?
I think there's a tank round. They have a sabot round that's similar to that. There was something called a Raufoss round. A Raufoss. I think it's Mark 250 or something, where you could shoot out of a 50 cal. So a 50 cal Modus could be mounted on top of a Humvee, and there would be a tungsten steel penetrating dart inside the middle. So it would hit the car, explode, and then send this like tungsten dart through the car. It wouldn't liquefy the people inside, but it would be like basically a shotgun blast on the other side of that bullet.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not on the receiving end of any of that.
No kidding. So I remember when I was like 1990 was when I was in the military, and it wasn't quite the Javelin, and didn't look as heavy, but I can't remember what the name of it was. Lars or Mars was the acronym for it, and it was a missile. It was a missile, and it was guided by wire. So it was a thin wire, 5,000 feet, I think was the distance on it, and you had to hold the dot against the actual target, so that way you could guide the missile by wire going through. It's been a while, and I don't think they've used that. Oh, it's an yeah, something like that. Anyways,
anti-tank round, AT. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was way too long ago, 30 plus years. So, yeah, kudos to them. But that's a lot of stuff. Like, where's the inventory?
A lot of javelins.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's actually in the second Iraq War in 2003. That just absolutely devastated Saddam's tank army, because we had these things we could hide behind a mountain, shoot it off, and destroy an entire tank column with it. And it was literally like shooting fish in a barrel. Like they didn't stand a chance.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Like, oh, nuts. We don't have rounds to shoot that far. So we can't creep up on them in a tank, and they're just eliminating us from miles away.
So yeah. I know they had those mounted on the Bradley machines, because the Bradley machines normally have a 50 caliber round on them, but I know like they were using javelins or something like that. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone out there. But it was a very similar type, rocket propelled. It would shoot two, and then they'd have to get out and reload. I was watching some of the tank battles on that, and my brother-in-law, Joe, he would tell me about that kind of stuff. Pretty cool. So.
Yeah, but back to your point, so I don't think any of that 40 billion is going into cyber, as far as I know. This is 100% volunteer online army that's launching these DDoS attacks to disrupt the alcohol flow.
I don't know. I think you're going to see like a huge like Ixia breaking point PO come through. Throwing this stuff out on the internet edge, taking them out.
So that's a good question. So the people on this podcast, the people we work with, we're so ingrained on the defensive side. Who would be the vendors on the offensive side? Like if you were to cut a PO, it would be like an Ixia device. Like who does the offensive stuff? Cobalt Strike?
Who does testing? You could essentially turn a testing device into something that could DDoS something, right? You just have to give it where the target would be. Yeah,
I mean, I would think it'd be like U.S. Cyber Command, like they're the only official people that can quote hack back or defend forward. Like I don't think they could hire like Mandiant. So Mandiant has a decent red team. Could the government hire Mandiant and say, hey, go attack these guys? Like I don't think so. They can't legally do that.
They probably have their own red team.
Cyber Command.
Yeah, Cyber Command. Are there any innocent victims from the Russia side in this DDoS? Like, is the alcohol going to go bad? Is someone not going to eat that day? I'm just curious.
No, I think that's why the Ukraine IT army curates their lists specifically. So like the Kremlin website, their Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Defense, and websites like this alcohol distribution. I think they don't want the innocent victims being influenced or being impacted by it, so they won't attack like a grocery store or something like that, but they'll attack their military or the Kremlin's website.
But if I'm not mistaken, like Russia's having their own issues right now with supply chain, right? So shelves are bare, people are fighting over the last bits of IKEA furniture. Many of the U.S. Western stores have pulled out, so no place for them to go eat Taco Bell or Burger King or McDonald's.
It's those crippling sanctions. Even if they could get stuff sent to them, they can't pay them. Like they're just cut off from the world's financial system.
It's good to hear they're not targeting Boris's barbecue joint. That's great.
Yeah, I think the barbecue is safe for now, Uncle Barbecue. All right, for our second topic, May 5th, which just passed, was known as World Password Day. Now, despite having this holiday every year, we're still continuing to see successful attacks against companies due to poor password hygiene, password reuse, credential stuffing attacks, and just an abysmal adoption of multi-factor authentication. So I think we need more than just Password Awareness Day. We also need Patch Your Software Day, Don't Reuse Passwords Day, Enable Multi-Factor Authentication Day, Disable Dormant Accounts Day, Block Access to RDP Day, and the like. What holidays would you guys like to see implemented, and how do we fix this password issue?
Chris, you ignorant slut. May 5th is Cinco de Mayo. Like, how dare you try to attribute this to weak password? No, just kidding. That's actually a good question. Like maybe National Brush Your Teeth Day. I've ran into some people that got some funk going on, so I'm down for that.
They could benefit from that.
But password reuse is a real pain in Dad's side inside the Deach household. I can't tell you how many times that like I open up like the Notes app on my kids' phone, and there's just a password that they use for everything. I'm like, oh, like we're on a family LastPass thing, right? Like this.
Like, what am I paying for this for?
Yeah,
that is hilarious.
Or at least you even use the Apple keychain. Just something.
Yeah. So October is Cybersecurity Month. You would think that maybe in that month they would have dedicated days within the month to do or organize those things, right? So, like how about set up your email, clean your email, anti-phishing day. I don't know what you would do for anti-phishing day, because you just need to set up some rules. I don't know, but like I said, it's kind of out there.
Yeah, a lot of industries, ours included, require mandatory user awareness training, but people just do that to check the box. Like they can't spot a phishing email, and to their credit too, some of these phishing emails are incredibly sophisticated, but some are just dumb. Like, we locked your PayPal account. Click here to unlock it.
Or maybe it's don't open your email day.
I can get behind that one.
You can't get phished if you don't read your emails.
That's right. Select
here's the
all.
secret, everyone.
Yeah.
If the email comes in and doesn't say Brian, it goes straight to my trash.
It's select all, delete. I worked at a company. They did a red teaming phishing test on us, and I've always lived here on the West Coast, and then they sent it out at like 6 a.m. my time, so I wasn't quite online quite yet. A bunch of people on the East Coast got hit, and then by like 7 o'clock the email came out. I was like, oh yeah, this is just a red teaming test, and like, hey, I passed. I didn't open my email, I didn't click on the link, and I passed just because I was probably still asleep.
That's awesome.
I used to be one of those people as a jerk that would just every email that came in, that was like kind of like, oh my gosh, I really have to do timekeeping on my day-to-day job. Like I would just forward it on to my manager and then to SecOps. Like, yeah, I think this is a phishing thing.
So that's interesting, right? So these teaming events, I remember they sent it out, and a whole bunch of us decided to take that email, put it inside of our lab and explode it there, and detonate it there and see what we could catch. And the report came back that like a whole bunch of SCs had clicked on the link, and we were used as like, hey, that they clicked on this link, so we take credit for that. And I'm like, no, dummies, we saw it, we knew it, we detonated it just so we could see what it was. So no, you don't get credit for us, right? So
yeah. So speaking of idiots, Chris, I want you to answer this truthfully. What was Hunter Biden's laptop password again?
Am I allowed to say it on the show?
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I was about to say, I'm like,
maybe if you spell it with
phonetically,
or with the symbols that resemble letters, we can get away with that. No,
I think Brian's trying to either get me banned or demonetized again.
Yeah. What's funny is anytime I have to call like an airline, I'm like, yeah, they ask for your reservation number. I'm like, I'll say it to you phonetically. And then I don't use any of the proper ways.
The NATO alphabet.
You mean the military? The military NATO alphabet?
So it's like, it's Apple, and then Boris, and then, KitKat. They're like, what the heck is wrong with you, man?
Yahtzee.
I'm doing my best here. Doing my best.
And speaking of that, I got banned on Twitter, of all things. I logged in the other day because I was doing some testing in my home lab, and I looked at it and it says you are not allowed to post anything because you've been banned. And it's like, guys, how did I get banned? I've never posted anything.
Thanks, Elon.
Yeah, thanks. How did that happen? So I sent an email, frustrated. I sent an email to their response team, and I said, how do I get banned? Exactly like that. How do I get banned? I've never posted anything. And then the response came back pretty quickly the next day. That was, okay, we've unbanned you. But it's still, how did you ban me? Right? Is it because of inactivity? Yeah. Maybe. But I always log in. So
how has Twitter gone too far? Look at that.
Yeah.
You know what it is? Password reuse. You're probably logging in from China and Russia. They're like, oh, we got to ban this.
There you go. Impossible travel.
Could be. Yeah. I'm doing all kinds of crazy things with that browser. So.
All right. For our third story, you guys want to buy an HQ computer or a DOW computer? Bloomberg is reporting that China is forcing government agencies and state-backed industries in China to start transitioning off foreign-made computers in favor of hardware and software sourced from China. The firms hit the hardest would be HP, Dell, and Microsoft. Over the next 2 years, as many as 50 million foreign-made machines would have to be swapped out for a model made in China. This directive comes as tensions between China and the West have never been higher, and the U.S. sanctioned and punished state-owned Huawei, and China had no choice but to still continue buying American-made computers. A lack of clear alternatives made switching more difficult, but now that Lenovo is Chinese-owned and Kingsoft Corporation has made great strides in making a Chinese version of Microsoft Office and Adobe products, a clear alternative is now available. No word on what types of chips will be used since US-based Intel and AMD still dominate the processor market, and China has wanted to get off the Made in America Windows operating system for years in favor of a China-developed distribution of Linux. Will this finally be the year Linux takes over in China?
Okay, wait. I don't get it, because Dell, HP, all these devices are still somewhat made in China. So I don't get it. Just like Deej's shirt. Like it's...
Oh, how dare you.
Yeah. This is really made in America, dude. Look at this. I just, in typical China fashion, right? They just said, find and replace, copy and paste, right? They're just going to do the next best thing, copy someone else's stuff and make it their own. So yeah, when you said an HQ computer, are you talking like HP or like Compaq?
Like a knockoff. Yeah. You know how they have those Chinese brands that are all one letter off from American brands.
Yeah.
How hard do you think it would be for them to make their own version of an Intel or AMD processor?
Probably already done it.
Yeah, they either stolen or copied the designs. So the manufacturing is probably the hard part. I was thinking more of the line, since they are switching to Linux, they could switch to ARM, so they can use an ARM-based processor instead of x86.
How intertwined, though? How intertwined are the two economies based off of this, right? If you look at it from, consumer goods, right? This is just going to keep escalating. We've already stopped with Huawei, but I thought it was an understanding that we stopped using the Huawei because they actually created backdoors. Like there hasn't been any proof from the Chinese side that we've done anything of the sort with Dell or with HP devices, right?
No proof, but they're saying we don't want to take the chance. I mean, I guess that's the official state reason, and then the unofficial state reason is they don't want to keep supporting America, or they want to use it as leverage in trade talks, one or the other. Is
it still Trump's thing? It's not America first, it's China first now? Is that what they're trying to do here?
Yeah.
Take a page out of his book.
Make China great again.
I think that's an actual initiative within mainland China. It's called like China 2025 or something, where they want or if not 100%, but a great majority of stuff to be sourced and made in China. Stop relying on foreign governments.
China's just getting a little big for the bridges. Someone might have to go over there and slap them around. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I actually read a story that said currently, so as of today, as of the data recording, 328 million people within China are locked down right now. So Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, which when you think about it is the entire population of the US. That's how many people are locked, not just locked down like we had lockdowns, like you can't even leave your house or your apartment locked down.
Yeah, like tape your windows shut also, right? They've got security tapes on doors and windows to validate if you've left your home.
They have drones flying around. Like if they spot you on your balcony without a mask, they'll use a drone, do facial recognition, find out who you are, and then deduct the fine from your state-owned bank account.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's why I love America.
Find out if that, yes. A lot of people are going to find out if those marriages are going to work and be locked down like that.
6 weeks. It's been 6 weeks that they've been locked down. So you want to talk about testing a relationship.
I just would have jumped out the window. Not because I couldn't be married, right? I got that. That's locked in. But like being stuck in my house for 6 weeks, I'm out. We're going to do something different.
Yeah, then you
can. Times.
That'll be 6 weeks where they could develop the Chinese version of Linux then.
Well, Linux is about to have a great year coming up. So good for them.
Yeah, potentially.
Long time coming.
Wait. But isn't that run? Oh, it's Red Hat. That's owned by IBM now, right? So
don't tell them.
They just use the kernel anyway. They build their own. They'll roll their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, they roll their own code. All right.
Yeah. Okay, well, before we jump into our last topic, I got some listener feedback on episode 58, the one we had with Macho Man, where we talked about consumer-grade routers only lasting about 3 years. I actually had a listener contacting me saying his Wi-Fi router was more than 3 years old and was contemplating replacing it because he had been experiencing slow speeds around his house. Well, he actually went out and brought a brand new mesh Wi-Fi system, and his speed jumped up 6x, so... You're welcome. The PEBCAK Podcast has helped supercharge our listeners' Wi-Fi, and thanks for the note, Tim.
Wow, 600 megs per second. What a time to be alive.
But wait, hold on. Did he just test rebooting first to see if it would just clear up cache on the device?
I'm sure he did, but yeah, based on the layout of his house and switching to mesh and switching to modern Wi-Fi, I think all those contributed to the significant increase in speed.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
All right, for our last topic, and it will be a rotating topic every week. This week, we're going to talk about the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial per Glenn's request. And as you can tell, I'm extremely enthusiastic about talking about this. So let me lay out some facts for the people that have not been following along, myself and Brian included. I actually had to look this up. Johnny Depp filed a defamation case against his ex-wife Amber Heard, and the trial is taking weeks to complete. So here in America, there's something called defamation, where if you say something, you knowingly say something incorrect about someone in public, then you can be sued for damage if that person can prove what you said caused damages to them. So the couple split up in 2016, but have continued to battle in court over an op-ed that Amber Heard wrote for the Washington Post in 2018, in which she describes surviving domestic violence without mentioning Johnny Depp by name. So Johnny Depp is suing for $50 million in damages and denies ever being physically violent with Amber Heard. Heard is countersuing for $100 million and claims she was only ever violent with Depp in self-defense or defense of her younger sister. So I'm going to turn this over to Glenn, so you can lay this out for us.
Yeah, I don't think I've been watching it passively with interest because I live with 4 women in the house, and so it's always a topic of discussion. What's interesting for this is that, I think that the lawyers for each side representing have both been, on point and not on point. And the judge has been very clear about making sure that each side has an amount of time dedicated to their line of questioning, and it's being recorded. So if a defense takes 5 minutes to answer questions or do a rebuttal, that gets marked off their time, and the judge has been very strict about following that time. Kudos to them, right? Because we don't want this thing to splay out into over months. And I think what they're saying is that they want this thing to end, I think sometime in May. So I think the 9th or the 17th of May is what I was reading. Really cool, because we're not going to get, put over the long haul on this as far as having to listen to this over and over again. The first stuff was the plaintiff, and they had they had Johnny go up there, and Johnny's detail of recanting instances where he had to bring up his livelihood, where as a child he grew up and was in situations of abuse, and so therefore he was living that, and he didn't want to have that go through him, and he wanted to save his marriage as much as possible. And his stories are very vivid. Like, hey, I did this. We went through, I loved her. We went through these situations, and he was, talking from emotions. Whereas Amber, when she came up to trial, her things were of generality, right? And not only that, but there were a bunch of holes in what she was saying. Like, she had to use a specific makeup to cover her bruises, when in fact the deal with that makeup company didn't happen until 2 years after, the incident that occurred. So you're like, what's going on here? And then you hear her testimony, and her testimonies are, again, very general in nature. They had both of them supplied a counselor or a psychologist of some with some background in what do you call that, in
like domestic violence
violence, yeah. And both of them agreed that, well, the first one, Johnny's side actually described Amber Heard as having two personalities, and the defense side, their counselor mentioned that Johnny had been abused, and there was something to the effect that Amber may or may not have been, right? So again, just lots of things going back and forth. But if you hear some of the things that are going on, even if you hear her testimony, she's not very convincing, and it all sounds just like it's fabricated. So I'll stop there. I'm sure there are other listeners that are listening to this going, what is he talking about? But it's all on YouTube.
Yeah, essentially, I didn't hear any of the stuff about the domestic violence as a child, and having been that kid that was abused too, one of the things that you find out as you become an adult is that you can kind of carry that on, right? Like, you have a high probability of being the abusive husband or the abusive dad, right? Which is terrifying when you think about it. And so I remember early on when I was finding out I was becoming a dad and a husband, I was like, man, like, I don't really have a good reference point on what to do, but I know 100% what not to do, right? So that's always been kind of my guiding light in the sky of, like, like, how do I handle these situations in life to make sure I don't turn out to be that freaking monster, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're going to be the one to break the cycle.
Yeah, I grew up in an Asian family. I'm not gonna lie to you. Whoopings were of everyday consequence for me. So if I dulled my pencil, I got an ass whipping. If I wore my shoes in the house, that was of consequence, right? So if I didn't clean my room, that was of consequence. So it was harsh, but it's what I knew, and I'm not a bad person today. I did start that way in my parenting style, but soon realized that it's not good for the kids. So
yeah, it's counterproductive.
Yeah. So I will tell my kids, I do apologize. I didn't have the greatest examples of fatherhood when I was growing up, but I have learned that. And like I said, I do apologize to my kids for any discretions that I've had. So. Maybe I go turn a Buddhist like Uncle Joe or like Tiger Joe, Joe the Tiger. So,
I don't know if you guys have ever shared this story with you guys, but early on, I have these things called the daddy-daughter talk. Like my daughters can come. I have a son too, but it was never really a thing with him. He wasn't as emotional. So the girls can come talk to me literally about anything. And my goal there was never to justify, just listen, right? And so I get headed out on a trip, going to my daughter's rooms, and I'm saying goodbye, and I step on a wet towel. I'm like, man. It's like, I hate it when you leave wet towels on the floor because it makes smells, and then it gets the carpet, blah, blah, blah. That's it. Give her a hug goodbye, jump on a plane, I'm gone. A couple weeks later, my daughter comes into the office. She's like, we need to have dad-daughter talk. I'm like, all right, let's have this conversation. So she sits down, and she's got like these alligator tears immediately. She's like, it really hurt me when you said that you hated me. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh no.
I get the same thing.
I was like, okay. And then that's where you gotta apologize, right? I was like, listen, I don't hate you. I love you, right? I hated the towel on the floor. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those things. But thank God we had that, because Lord knows how long she probably would have held on to it, right? She held on to it for at least 2 weeks. Can't imagine going into your adulthood listening to a lie like that in your head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's good that you at least be open and have that open communication. That's not something that's as common. I would say, being able to have those types of conversations with your children. But at least she felt comforted enough to be able to come to you and talk to you and know that you wouldn't react poorly to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. No, I really hate you.
I'll point this out, and my kids say I've done some things, I've done some wrongs for them, and it's like, okay, great. I learned it from my dad. I felt like my parents did some things that weren't that great when I was growing up, and it was to the tune, like, if I did something bad, they'd make me pull my pants down, and my dad would take this special belt out that I had to go get, and he would just spank me, right?
When you get the belt was the worst.
And I'll tell you right now, I probably deserved it. I broke something, I did something, I cost them something, and I deserved it. I cannot imagine what my parents went through growing up with their parents on what they did to them growing up. So, a different frame of mind. It's like they grew up in a different time, and if he was trying to be better than what his parents did, I can't imagine what his parents did to him.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of what his defense is going to be, because I think he called like character witnesses, like he was an ex-girlfriend or one of his past marriages, and they said no, Johnny's never been abusive towards me. He's been very loving, and they both called character witnesses on both sides. Johnny Depp did struggle with addiction, alcohol abuse, and the like, and he got help for that, but he's called people to defend him on his behalf that says, he was never this way. Like, what she's saying about him just doesn't add up.
Yeah. And even, some of the people that came to Johnny Depp's defense, the stories that they had were like, well, did you know, the defense would go and question the supporting folks, like his mic guy, right? His audio guy. He goes, well, did you know that he had your name specifically in contract, that you had to be paid a certain amount? He goes, I didn't know. I'm not privy to that. I just get the standard union rate for audio guy for whatever it is. He goes, and they're like, did you know he named you specifically? And he was like, I don't know. I didn't know, right? And he goes, and they're like, because what they were trying to point out was that Johnny was buying his what do you call that? His
testimony.
His testimony. And it was like,
trying to pay him off.
It made the defense sounded so stupid, because it was like, wow, Johnny's a really caring guy, that he would go out of his way to make sure that, certain people were named in contract in order to make sure that, they had a livelihood, right? And a lot of them said it. They were being taken care of. Yeah, exactly.
Like Johnny Depp carries his Jack Sparrow costume anywhere he travels, even for leisure. He always carries his Jack Sparrow costume in case there's like a children's hospital there, and he'll go there and visit. Like, that's a known thing that he does.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Talk about
that's
a real all-around good guy.
Yeah,
we're nothing compared to Johnny.
I don't know. Maybe the verdict of this trial will say otherwise, but we don't know what'll come from it.
So Glenn, in your house, is Amber Heard's name actually Amber Turd? like it is at my house.
It's she who will not be named in the house. So yeah, but yeah,
I don't know anybody that's pro Amber. Everything else seems to be on Team Johnny Depp.
Yeah, flip this around, and we may get some flack for this, right? This whole started, and then the Me Too movement jumped in with Amber's side. I haven't heard so much about where the Me Too movement is now with what's going on, especially with all the, the testimony that's happened so far. I haven't really followed any of that or seen them in any of this.
I know she fired her publicity team after all the negative stuff that came out from the trial.
Yeah.
So I know that's not going well for her.
Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't looked at it. The only other thing that I've seen is her wiping her nose and what looks to be like a quick bump, if you know what I mean. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, that's in making the rounds. All right. Well, we continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week.
Dad joke of the week.
This week, Brian is up.
Alrighty, team. Let's see what I got here. I have a bunch. I've been throwing them in my notes. I hear them all the time. All right. So I recently found out, it's hard to even say this, my wife has been cheating on me. Last night she said she'll be home in 15 minutes max. My name is Brian.
Wah, wah, wah. All right, let's wrap things up. Believe in second chances. Ukraine's IT army is trying to cut off the alcohol supply in Russia. World Password Day came and went, and absolutely nothing has changed since last year. China is looking to build their own hardware and software to reduce reliance on the West. And I don't care enough about celebrity gossip. That's all we have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find us all on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to all our listeners and subscribers who rate us 5 stars in the iTunes Store and Spotify and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is to search for the PEBCAK Podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. For my co-hosts Brian Deitch and Glenn Medina, I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week, and as always, have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
May the 5th be with you.
There you go. 5th of vodka.